So congratulations on the daughter getting married. What did they do yesterday?
Uh,
What did you do? Did you go?
yeah, we went to the Zushi city office. Oh, first we before the whole thing, we hiked across Hirayama to surface similar to the
Yeah,
walk I
yeah,
did
yeah, yeah.
last weekend.
So you went from here.
We just and then we then my ex arrived and the girls got into their kimonos and
Yeah.
all that stuff, and the guys put on more Western style, and then we just cabbed it down to the Zushi city office, did all the paperwork, and got the official certificate, and then we went up to Yokohama to. It was kind of a fancy Italian with a view out Minato Marai to the boat and the big wheel and stuff like that. And drank a bottle of champagne and had some really good food. That was great.
So did the lad came down as well? Did he?
Yeah.
So how many were there?
Oh, Gino wasn't there. No.
No.
No, he was coaching his kids. They were doing selections that night. It was
right.
He said too important to miss. He always puts a priority. Liverpool always gets the priority. That's the way he is.
So now your daughter sounds like she did the same as I did. Me and my wife went to Nakano City Hall.
Yeah.
2010.
Okay.
She were 6 months pregnant. I'd cycled from work. It was December.
You'd already got her up
dark.
the duff, bunning up and ready to go.
We signed the thing.
Yeah.
It got taken away, and then the woman came back with the completed paperwork.
Yeah.
And she went, "Oh, omedetou gozaimasu," and she looked at us both, and you could see that she was thinking, "This ain't gonna fucking last." Right. He's only getting married because he's knocked her up.
Yeah.
But
a pregnancy wedding.
Touch wood.
Still going strong.
Well,
how long have you been together?
So 2010 was when I got married.
Oh,
27
wow. 12 years
is when I first met her.
Yeah.
So yeah, fucking touch wood. Well, oh yeah,
that's 15 years.
You should be right.
Yeah, 15 years is pretty good.
And yeah, no dramas. No fucking. That's all I wanted in my life is no dramas. I've always had a fucking drama, and I ain't got any now.
That's good.
So did you do the same when you got wed?
No, I didn't. I didn't have a 6 months pregnant. No, she wasn't pregnant at all. Actually, my first marriage was a fancy dress wedding in a park in Sydney. That was a Hong Kong Chinese,
right?
And then that was an immigration wedding, but we stayed together for 6 years. So it was
did her family come over, or did they know it was an immigration?
She didn't tell them. She told them later, and we actually did a remarriage for the cameras, basically. Yeah. And then she told her parents, and this was like 6 months later.
Were they happy with that?
It again. They're okay with it, yeah. Yeah, they knew she was a bit of a strange one. She wasn't going to marry a nice Chinese boy and settle down.
So how long ago was that?
Jesus, that was it was in the 80s,
right
through the mid 80s.
But the Hong Kong Chinese would have been right with the British then, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah, no problem at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it means you've got an escape valve to get out of Hong Kong.
Yeah.
But she already had that because she and some of her younger brothers had already relocated to Canada for school, and they'd established residency. And actually, before 1997, the parents got out of Hong Kong and moved to Canada.
Right.
The only ones that stayed were the two oldest brothers, and they stayed, and they kind of they carried the Chinese flag basically, but the rest of the family relocated to Canada.
So if it were
because the parents had already escaped from communist China in '49,
right?
So they weren't going to go through that again.
Yeah.
They knew what was coming basically. And the smart money in Hong Kong, all the people with any kind of sense got out of Hong Kong before '97.
Yeah, they were saying when the Chinese were escaping to Hong Kong, the people in Hong Kong saying that river were just clogged up with dead bodies.
Yeah.
They had to get like a council team in to clear out that river because they were just stacking up and places were getting flooded.
Right.
It was just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, crazy times.
So because it were an immigration, are you still in touch with her now?
Yeah, we're good friends.
Where is she now?
She's in Canada. She's in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah. She eventually we went to London. We broke up. She she couldn't come. I went to work in Italy for 6 months. I couldn't
Mm.
stand another London winter.
Yeah.
So I went to work in Italy for 6 months, and she hooked up with an ex-boyfriend, Italian, for one strange reason, in London. And I hooked up with an English girl in Italy. It's weird. It's just weird. You know, why would I end up with an English girlfriend in Italy, and she ends up with an Italian boyfriend in England? It's just weird. And then she went off to she worked a while in China, in Shenzhen, I think, just across the border, and then in Germany, and then eventually she went back to Canada.
So she's there now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she's still there. She's been there for 20 odd years.
So that were your first wedding?
That was the first wedding, yeah.
Just an immigration job?
Yeah. But it was a fancy dress in a Sydney park, and we had stacks of friends coming along.
Yeah.
It was a real party, actually. It was great. Second one was Nogizaka Shrine in Tokyo. It was a full. I
don't know where that is.
It's central Tokyo. It's close to Roppongi.
Was that the full Japanese wedding with the woman in the?
Yeah, the full thing with the traditional music and.
Really?
For me, it was just a fancy dress. It was like, this is great. We can be we can be traditionally Japanese. We can do the full regalia. Had a bunch of people came along. We had a very Western ceremony. We switched to Western style clothes for the reception, and we just did a restaurant and speeches and songs.
Because I don't know, I've not been invited to one of those weddings yet. Gavad is while I was living in Spain.
Right.
Did you know him when he got married?
No.
Yeah, he did all that traditional stuff.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of bullshit? Because I've not really spoke to him about it. Is there a lot of bullshit before?
You need to learn a kind of an oath or a
pledge.
You pledge allegiance to the god of the shrine.
Right.
There's a little bit of Japanese stuff to learn, but you can basically read it. You can do a Romaji reading. No, there's not a great deal. You need to basically run through. You need a dress rehearsal where you or a rehearsal at least where you run through the. Where do you go and where do you stand and how many times do you bow and all that kind of the minutiae of the ceremony. But if you're a foreigner, they don't expect you to do it perfectly anyway.
So from start to finish, that ceremony, that Japanese ceremony, how long were you asking about for?
Probably an hour or
an hour.
It's not that long.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's a reasonable time, and much more time at the reception.
So you've never had a Christian wedding then?
No.
No.
Never. No. Celebrant wedding is it's could be Christian if you wanted it to be, but you can write your own ticket basically.
Yeah.
And we kind of wrote a secular ceremony basically, just to kind of pledge our love, etc., etc. And the ceremony in Japan, I didn't understand most of it.
Yeah.
But I had a general overview of what we were talking about. But
now. I'm coming up to about 1,000 ceremonies now.
Wow!
With this wedding job I've got,
yeah.
But I've only been invited to one, and that was my sister-in-law's wedding, and she asked me to conduct the wedding for her.
Oh,
so
wow.
I did the celebrant thing for her.
And when you do the celebrant thing, is it kind of generally Christian, or is it specifically Catholic or Protestant?
It's just a blender.
Right. Okay.
Just a blender.
Just a mix.
Yeah.
But is it religious?
You pray and there's the Bible reading, so it is religious.
Okay.
But I think it's, and this is going to sound sexist, but I think it's geared towards the bride because that's what they see in Hollywood movies.
Right.
You don't see any Japanese weddings in Hollywood apart from what was Lost in Translation.
Yeah.
You saw one there in Kyoto.
Right.
But there's no ins and out. The romantic wedding, Hollywood style, is a Christian wedding.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I think they want that.
Yep.
They want all the friends on either side to be,
Right.
Yeah. So, I'm coming up to 1,000 of them.
Yeah. Maybe my third wedding will be Christian. I don't know.
Would you do the dance again?
I'm not sure.
Because I was thinking when you told me your daughter got married, I thought they could have fucking asked me to do it, but then he's a Muslim and the parents would have probably disowned him.
Yeah, no, I think that they're going to do a ceremony at a mosque in Paris at the Grand Mosque in Paris, and then they're going to come out here. And Emmy wants to do a shrine wedding.
Yeah.
So, and she's going to do it probably at Morito.
Ah, right, Morita Ginger.
Morito Ginger, yeah.
like to see that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll be fairly low key. Her friend just married at Hachimangu in Kamakura, which is the big one, and it was very restricted. They could only have family. They could
Right.
they had 1 or 2 friends came, but very, very restricted in numbers.
Yeah.
Morito Jinja is much more relaxed, much cheaper to organize, and a much nicer place. Basically, Morito's gorgeous. I mean, it's right beside the sea. You get that fantastic sunset.
Yeah. If she gets the weather right,
yeah,
you know, it's perfect.
it is. Yeah. Well, she'll be looking at the long range forecast. Probably do it in the season where there's a good chance.
Yeah.
Like if you did it in this season, for example, very good chance of a fine day.
Yeah.
You know, forget about June, July. There are some months you wouldn't try and do it, and you wouldn't do it in the middle of summer anyway. It'd be crazy. I think either spring or autumn. That's.
So she's going for the mosque wedding in Paris.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's basically to fulfill the religious side. The husband's quite religious.
Yeah.
Yeah. He does a month of Ramadan, and the father and mother aren't religious at all. But he is, and his brother is. It's kind of the new generation is.
Yeah. So
they're not radicalized, but they kind of respect
the stepping up.
Yeah, they respect the traditions of Islam.
I mean, not being religious at all, but if you do it right,
yeah,
it's a nice way to live, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If you do it right.
Well, you know, the principles of all religions are pretty much the same. You know, don't kill people, don't bitch at other people.
Be nice to people less fortunate.
Yeah, be nice, basically. You know, it's like, you know, at the end of E.T. where the alien says to Elliot, "Be good."
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And you know, it gets stuffed up by, you know, people misinterpreting and, you know, saying, you know, our religion's greater than your religion, or, you know, you're infidels, or, you know, you're heretics, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the principle of each religion is very much the same. It's a way for a community to live in harmony, and it gives a kind of spiritual foundation of that.
Did none of your kids have religion when you were growing up? Did you not bother with it?
No,
I'm not bound up.
Basically, but you know, we still went to. They did Stigo San. They did the 3, 5, 7-year-old ceremony where you go to the shrine, you say a prayer. We used to go to the local shrine or the local temple for January the 1st.
Yeah.
Or sometimes December 31st.
Yeah.
And just it's like, you know, it's a good luck thing. It's like a good luck charm. It's not like we believe in this God or that God, but we believe that, you know, every little bit of good luck you can get, you know, maybe it'll turn into a lotto win, or, you know, maybe you'll do well in your exam at school, or whatever it is.
Because I find there's no religion in our house really.
Yeah.
But I find that people back home, the least religious people I know are the ones that spend an absolute fortune at Christmas. Yeah. Did you put a tree up or out at Christmas?
Do a tree.
Yes, I'm not doing fuck all in our house.
Yeah, I was brought up with that tradition, the tradition of the tree and the gift and stuff like that. But you know, when you think about it, religion has a very positive force artistically. You know, you think what are the great architectural buildings of the world? A lot of them are religious, not all, but a lot of them are religious. Music. I mean, J.S. Bach, if you want to go back to the classic, he was a church organist.
Yeah.
You know, and if you go to Bali, for example, you know, all the connections to religion, it's a living religion.
Well, all of that Southeast Asia, all that area is just the things that you're in awe of are all religious.
Sure.
Religious things.
Sure, absolutely.
You know.
So. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of very positive creations that are related to religion. So you can't fault that.
So she'll have 2 different weddings in 2 different religions.
Yeah.
And not the Christian one.
No, probably not.
Right. Okay.
No, she'll cover all the options.
Wow. Yeah. Because we just signed the paper thing and had nothing.
Right.
We didn't do because. Like I say, she was 6 months pregnant. I said, "Well, do you want to do something after?" I didn't want to do it. My fucking parents were not going to come over here,
right?
Because my mum was sick at the time.
Right.
There's nobody in Bradford that can afford to fly all the way over to Tokyo for a wedding.
Right.
So my mates weren't going to come.
Yeah.
And she just didn't want to do that speech to her parents.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, well, should we just save up the money and spend it on the kids, or have a nice holiday when they get? Yeah, fucking perfect.
Better to have a honeymoon than a ceremony.
I mean, the honeymoon
two.
was fucking 8 years later, but
Yeah.
we had 3 weeks in Thailand in this private villa. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was worth waiting for.
Sure.
You know?
Absolutely.
But yeah, how much did it cost back then?
I really don't know. I can't remember. It wasn't a huge amount of money.
So the guest that turned up that chipped in, did that pay for it all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because her parents actually gave us a massive sum, which covered the whole wedding, basically.
The places where I work at, it's 3 million yen, which is what, $30,000? Would you say one for one?
Yeah.
$30,000.
Ours was way less than that, because we did it was the final time slot of the day at Nogizaka, and it was like the discount slot. We took that,
Right.
and then we hired a room at a restaurant, and it was catered, but it wasn't hugely expensive.
Yeah.
So we did it, at a reasonable budget. I mean, it was still nice. The food was good, and the ceremony was fantastic. But it was, probably Sanjuman,
Yeah.
about that, less than $500,000. And weddings in Japan, usually it's $1 million plus, at least, for the whole kit and caboodle.
But
and ours turned out to be, probably about 400K.
Really?
Yeah, that's very reasonable for Japan.
I'm just having to tighten this. I think it's going to fall off at any minute. Just a second. This table's lipped, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's got that curve at the top,
so it's
which doesn't make it
the best.
easy.
I'm going to have to get some of them tabletop mic stands. Just a second.
Yep. It looks like you got some purchase.
Yeah, right. So the places where I work at on the Shonan coast, there's one that'll do 4 a day.
Wow.
So if I'm working there all day, it's like a McDrive-through.
Right.
You know? One's gone, they're ushered out, and then you're sweeping up and changing the flowers and everything for the next one.
On the treadmill.
But it's good. It's if I could do that job full time, I'd do it full time, because it's so enjoyable.
Yeah.
So enjoyable.
Sure.
But yeah, I can understand why she didn't want to have a Christian wedding here.
Yeah.
Because what's the point?
Yeah. It doesn't really fit the culture. It's just for appearance.
Since we last spoke, you've been to Australia and come back, haven't you?
Yeah.
Now, we said the last podcast before you came back how you got to Australia.
Yeah.
Now, what I wanted to ask you, because everybody knows how I ended up here in Zushi. Why did you plug on this place?
Zushi.
Yeah. And what did you said you got married in Tokyo. Were you living in Tokyo?
Yeah.
Before you decided to come here?
Yeah. When I came here,
how did you get to Tokyo in the first place?
Okay. I was in London, and I'd met some Japanese people, and I'd always wanted to come to Japan.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'm in London, and I want to go back to Australia eventually. So if I go to Japan, stay in Japan for a year or so, make a bit of money, and then I can go back to Australia. It's quite close. So my plan was to come here for a year.
Yeah.
And I was in London. I actually applied for a job at A&A Stanton School, which was an English school run by the A&A
airline,
All Nippon Airways. Yeah. And I interviewed for the job. I got the job, and it included firstly a free airfare to Japan.
On Anna.
Yeah. And secondly, a week in the A&A hotel in Akasaka. So, my first week in Japan was like 5-star hotel. I think, oh, yeah, this is all right. I like this country. I can get used to this. And then, suddenly I was out of my ear. I had a Japanese girlfriend from London, and her parents ran a kind of a business hotel in Omori. Right. So I stayed with them for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then we got an apartment together in Koenji.
That's where I first lived.
Right.
Koenji.
My school was in Ginza. We were in Higashi Koenji.
Yeah.
My school was in Ginza. We were on the Marunouchi line, so it was a direct link. I could get to school in like 25 minutes.
My first school was in Ginza.
Yeah. amazing.
That's uncanny.
It is, isn't it?
Wow.
Lived in Koenji and
yeah.
went to school in Ginza. And, you know, Tokyo, people had advised me, I had a choice between a school in Osaka or a school in Tokyo. And
Yeah.
people said, oh, you know, definitely go for Tokyo. There's more of a range of culture and entertainment. It's a more interesting city. I would have been fine in Osaka, but it turned out to be Tokyo.
Yeah.
But for the first 6 months or so, you're in this kind of tourist wonderland. So you're kind of not noticing some of the things about the place that maybe you're not going to like.
Yeah.
Like the noise and the fact you can't see stars in the sky.
Crowd.
And crowds everywhere. Shinjuku Station was crazy. Used to go through Shinjuku quite a bit. So after a couple of years, I started thinking, either I'm going to leave Japan, or at least I'm going to leave Tokyo.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine moved down to Hayama.
Yeah.
Morito, actually, very close to Morito Beach.
Beach, yeah.
Yeah, and I came down for a couple of weekends. And at that stage, I was kind of in the process of breaking up with my girlfriend.
The original one.
The original Japanese girlfriend, yeah. We'd lived together for a couple of years. And things weren't really going anywhere special. So I was in the process of breaking up with her, and I went down to stay with my friend a couple of weekends in Hayama. And I started thinking, gee, it's not that far.
No.
You can actually live down here and commute to Tokyo. And then eventually the breakup came, and my future wife also broke up with her first husband at the time. And we basically both moved down. We got the apartment where we both were going to live.
Yeah.
I didn't live there at first because you need a 6-month break between a marriage and a new relationship.
Yeah.
And then I stayed not far from here, actually, just down in Shinjuku, where I eventually bought a house.
Yeah.
Zushi Shinjuku. And basically moved into a temporary share house, and then we kind of moved together 6 months later.
The temporary share house in Zushi?
It was in Shinjuku, yeah. And then we're in Zushi Shinjuku.
Yeah. But I mean, was that a gaijin house?
Yeah, there were foreigners living there. Yeah, it was rented from a Japanese family who were overseas, and there were 1, 2, 3. There were 4 of us sharing a big house with a big garden.
That's gone now, is it?
The house is still there, but the original families moved back.
Right, because I couldn't imagine there being a foreigner house in
Zushi. Not a gaijin house, as in foreigners come and stay. Short time. It was a regular Japanese house which was rented by foreigners. And they had it on a 6-month or a 12-month lease. Yeah. And there was a room to spare, and I took the spare room for a few months. Yeah. And then I eventually moved in with my girlfriend in the apartment we'd already decided to live in.
Where was that?
Zushi Nanachome, Central Zushi, 10 minutes walk from the station. Very nice location. Apartment.
Were you high up?
We were just one floor up.
Right,
it was a 2-story building.
Yeah.
And that was where we stayed for the first 2 or 3 years, and then eventually, just before Emmy, our firstborn, arrived, we moved to Sakurayama,
right,
which was a bigger house, 2-story house surrounded by forests, and very, very nice area.
Yeah, that's when we first came here. The first house we looked at, we decided to take, and that were a 2-bedroomed house surrounded by forest.
Yeah.
And it were glorious.
Right.
We were at the top of this hill.
Yeah.
It were a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
And obviously we were in a bowl, and everywhere you looked up were just trees.
Fantastic.
And the sound of the forest at night, you couldn't hear the trains going because there were a mountain between us.
Yep.
And the smell in the morning.
Yeah.
Even though we've only moved about 200 meters away from that place now into a bigger house, I've not got the smell of the trees, and we're surrounded by houses, but I can still see the treetops where we used to live.
Right.
But the house is bigger and it's nicer.
This house was good. I mean, it was a big house. We had a view of Fuji from the top floor.
Yeah.
And we were surrounded by forest on 2 sides.
Yeah.
But it was a really old house, and old houses, they come up to about 180.
Yeah.
And I used to whack my head on I'd wake up in the morning like,
Yeah.
hi-oh.
Yeah.
And the walls were kind of
Crumbling.
yeah, crumbly. You touch the wall and it's like the sand or the dust falls
that's
down
not
from
healthy,
the wall.
is it?
No, I don't think so.
And with not all Japanese women, but with some Japanese women, they want it new, don't they?
Yeah, I think that's a general thing with Japanese people. Secondhand things are not worth much.
Yeah.
Even cars, secondhand cars are incredibly cheap in Japan because people want new cars.
I worked with a fella that a Japanese man met him in a bar and said, "Oh, you're Australian, yeah. So can you join our company and ship cars to Australia for us, second-hand cars?"
Right.
The Australians are just hoovering them up.
Yeah.
And he's making a fortune.
Yeah, I know. I had a couple of friends who were doing the same thing. They were on the exporting cars, exporting used cars from Japan.
And the used
Australia.
cars are really well looked after here.
Yeah.
But nobody wants them, do they?
Yeah, and in Australia they're worth 10 times what they're worth here. A good used car, a good Japanese used car in Australia is worth quite a lot of money.
So when you moved from that old house that were falling down, did you then buy your house?
I bought a house in Shinjuku.
And what's that like going through all that? Because that seems a lot of fucking hoops.
I didn't do a lot of the work because my ex-wife was very business savvy. She basically dealt with the agent, she dealt with the legal side.
Right.
She was, she's now the general manager or the assistant general manager of Deutsche Telekom in Japan. She's a high flyer. Yeah. She was the office manager of my school when I arrived. I met her the second day I was here. And she gradually became more business oriented as she got older. Now she's kind of in a senior management position.
Wow.
So she does my tax. She still does my taxes. She's very good with business. She doesn't have an economics degree or anything like that, but you'd think she did have an economics degree or even an MBA or something like that. But she's done it through experience and through basically.
And she's still good enough friends with you to do your taxes for you?
Sure, yeah, no problem.
Because I know
she's done my taxes for 30 years. So,
I know a fella who's still married to his wife, and their relationship is so bad that he took her to the visa office to help get his residence visa through. Yeah. And his wife charged him for the time that she spent while she was at the visa office. Charged him 2,000 yen an hour.
I give my ex a cut of whatever. I always get a tax return, and it's basically it's a flat each month.
Yeah.
And then if I get over a certain amount, then I'll give it 10%.
Yeah.
So it works out. It's not massively lucrative. But she does my taxes. She does both kids and her own all at the same time.
Right.
So it's kind of economies of scale.
Yeah.
It doesn't involve as much work as it would if you're just doing one person in one family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fact that you've got a better relationship with your ex-wife than this fella has with his current wife.
Yeah.
You just be
we didn't always have a good relationship. We didn't have a good relationship the first 2 or 3 years after the divorce. It was fairly bitter. She still did my taxes, but it wasn't. That was the only contact we had almost.
Yeah.
Now we're doing family dinners, and obviously we're celebrating our daughter's wedding together.
Well, I suppose when he ain't got any kids, but I suppose when you've got kids, you can't be shouting and bawling at each other all the time, can you?
It's not good for the kids.
No.
Anyway.
So when you moved into that house. Obviously, houses are not an investment here, are they?
No, we lost money on the house.
Right. Okay. So
think of it as like you live rent free for a few years, and we did end up with a little bit of return. Like the mortgage was less than the sale price of the house, but not a lot. It was just a few million yen.
Yeah.
It wasn't like like in Australia. You buy a house and 15 years later it's worth 300% of what you bought it for.
So
fabulous.
How much did the house cost when you first bought it?
40, I think it was
42.
42 mil.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
It was a lot of money.
How long ago was
that? Must have been 90s, late 90s maybe. It was about the time. It was after Emmy was born. It was after Gina was born. It must have been early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we sold it late no, close to 20 years we had the house.
I came to your house on Christmas Day,
Mm.
maybe 2018,
Yep.
2017,
Yep.
and you were just selling it then, weren't you?
Right. Yeah.
So
we must have had it, yeah, probably about maybe 17, 18 years.
So you got close to 40 million for that house when you sold it?
No.
No?
We ended up with 30, 36, something like that, which was pretty good.
That's once good for a 20 odd year old
once a house gets to, well, the thing is, the real estate values have started going up, and it's
Yeah.
300 meters from the beach.
Yeah.
It's like the dream. You know, you move to Zushi, where do you want to be? You want to be near the beach.
Yeah.
You know, and it's also right at the base of Hirayama, so you got forest on one side,
Yeah.
and then you've got the walk down to the beach, very, very close on another side.
But still, it's a lot of money for a 20 odd year old house,
It
isn't
is.
it?
But you know, in Australia, that wouldn't figure in the
No.
you know, you could be 100-year-old house is still worth a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the value of property just keeps on appreciating.
But
in
how
Australia.
long will that house stand for before it has to be flattened, you think?
There are houses sitting around that are 100 years old in Zushi, and there are houses that still look pretty good that are 30, 40 years old in Zushi. So it could stand another 20 years, no problem. It depends on the people. You know, if there's a major typhoon, for example, that house really shakes in a typhoon, they may decide to upgrade it structurally. They might decide to put in a steel frame instead of a wood frame. It's pretty much up to the owner whether they decide just to renovate and you know keep it functioning, or tear it down and build a new one.
The land that it's on, though, that's not gone up or down, has it?
It's gone up now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Property values went up in Zushi during COVID.
Right.
Not as much as in Australia. In Australia, property values doubled during COVID.
Everybody, the city's emptied, didn't they?
Yeah, well, people wanted to get out of the city because of infection, but also people realized they could work online.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of companies wanted people to work online. So people thought, well, if I'm working online, I can live anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I still need to commute in once a week, but I can still live 30, 40, 50 Ks. Because you can do a commute and an overnight and then come back the next morning.
Well, where we are now, it's only 55 minutes to Shinjuku, Tokyo, isn't it?
Right.
On train, one train.
Exactly. Now the Shonan Shinjuku's got in. That made a big difference because you could do Shibuya, Shinjuku, Ikebukuro.
Yeah.
And it's a direct line.
And your Kosuka line straight to Shinagawa, isn't it?
Yep. Shinagawa and straight to Tokyo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can go right to the center, or you can go up the west side.
When I first moved here in late 2013, I was doing jobs in Tokyo, and they were saying, "Well, it's too far to commute." I said, "It's only 55 minutes from Shinjuku." They're like, "No, what?" I said, "Yeah."
Oh.
But these companies in Tokyo, they wouldn't pay my fee.
Wouldn't pay it at all.
They'd pay a bit of it.
Yeah, they pay up to a certain distance.
Yeah, and I was saying, well, no, we're not doing it then.
Right.
You know, if everybody gets the transportation expenses paid here, don't they?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of people, Saitamas, where a lot of office workers and you know company people live, and you know they may be up in north of Omiya in Kumagaya, or you know one of the more distant reaches of Saitama, and they're traveling just as far as people down here.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd prefer to be here, wouldn't you, than up there?
Yeah, no comparison.
Saitama in summer.
Saitama, if you're out towards the mountains, towards Okutama, that's really nice. That's real countryside. But yeah, it's hot as hell. Yeah. It's the hottest area of Japan. That's where they break all the temperature records.
I think I would prefer to be down by the beach in summer than in the mountains, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And in winter. I mean, the sea basically tempers the extremes. In summer, it's cooler down here.
Yeah.
In winter, it's warmer down here because sea temperature changes much slower than air temperature.
Yeah.
So it's always better to be near the sea.
So when you were living in that house and you split up, you got the house?
I basically stayed in the house, and my daughter stayed.
Did the wife not want to stay in Zushi?
No, she actually had a husband number 3 was lined up, so she wanted to move to Tokyo and move in with him.
So she, you see,
And Gino decided he was going to go with Mum, and Emmy wanted to stay in Zushi because, well, she wanted to stay with me, but also she wanted to stay in her school with her
Yeah.
friends. And she's 14 years old. She's
Yeah.
got this, her posse is established.
there's a core group, isn't there?
Yeah. And Gino was 10. He was more flexible, I guess. I mean, he had friends here for sure, but and he had his football team here. But he decided that, being with Mum was more important.
Now, I don't know how your thinking were back then, but after living in Tokyo, then moving to Zushi, I could never see myself moving back to Tokyo.
Yeah.
Were you the same?
Yeah, there was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I was either gonna stay in Zushi or I was gonna move back to Australia.
Even if both kids had gone with a mother, would you have still stayed in Zushi? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And we had a kind of unsigned agreement that we would sell the house somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
While Emmy and I were both there, obviously not, but sometime later. We would sell the house and we'd split the proceeds.
Right.
But the house, I mostly paid for the house, obviously. For the first 5 or 10 years of the marriage, I was the major wager, and I mean, the loan was paid out of my.
So you were paying mortgage.
Basically, I paid.
How much were it a month?
About 140, something 140.
Like that. So it's just like renting, isn't it?
It's a bit more than a rent. Yeah. I mean, this place is less than 100. So.
How many bedrooms you got upstairs?
There's 2 rooms upstairs. I use one as a bedroom. It's a big tatami room.
Yeah.
There's a smaller room, which is a kind of guest room / computer room / used to be a music room.
Toilets downstairs?
Toilets downstairs.
So you're having to do stairs when you're getting up in the middle of the night?
Okay. I can actually do it with my eyes closed. Because if I open my eyes and I start getting light, I wake up.
I'm doing exactly the same in my house.
So I can close my eyes. I may just kind of... the house is very dark at night. I keep curtains closed. So I can basically get downstairs and get back upstairs within a couple of minutes. And I'm still in I'm always in a sleepwalking state, so I don't wake up.
We do the exact same day. Left shoulder against the wall.
Yeah.
Follow it down because there's a turn in the steps.
Yeah, exactly.
Get down,
and it's a left shoulder to the wall for me to see with the same shoulder. 15
steps. I'm on the bottom, and then I just have to shuffle to the right, and there's the door.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much the same. Sounds like we're in the same house.
Wow. So I've started that early, and you're still doing that now.
I got a friend, Bob, who lives in Central Zushi, and he's got a terrace house as well, but his place is a little bit bigger, and they've got a toilet upstairs.
Right.
And he said, I couldn't live in a place that didn't have a toilet upstairs. I couldn't do this. I said, Bob, you get used to it.
Yeah.
And in the third world, the toilet's a field outside the house, and you just find a spot where nobody else has gone, basically.
My grandmother, in the early 70s, her shitter were outside.
Yeah.
They had it was called a po under bed. It was like a big teacup, a big fucking teacup like this, like a drinks tray.
Right.
And if you wanted to piss in the middle at night, you pulled it out.
Yeah.
And you sat on edge of bed and you pissed in po, and then you put it back under.
Right.
And in the morning, my nan would get up and you'd see her walking out gingerly to toilet outside.
She didn't drop it.
Fall it in, and then that were it.
In Australia, when I first went to Australia, a lot of houses, even in Sydney, a lot of houses had a kind of a thunderbox outside, like it'd be just a little shed, and it was like a pit toilet.
Yeah.
And that was, eventually the whole of Sydney now is sewered.
Yeah.
But for a long time there were still these outhouses everywhere, and so if you really had to do something serious in the middle of the night, you'd have to go outside. And in the middle of winter, it'd be freezing cold. And there's always the problem if there's a song about a redback on the toilet seat. The spider that can bite you on the arse when you're in the outhouse.
I was looking at something online the other day about living in Australia after our conversation in last Saturday.
Right.
And everybody's got this dream about living somewhere tropical and living in Australia. And then it were all these. There were a fella who lifted his toilet seat up, and there was this fucking huge snake just laying in the water, cooling off. And then there were a fella walking out of his house, and a big fucking spider the size of his head just in the door frame. Like, fucking hell. You know?
Australia has an amazing amount of venomous wildlife. You know, we've got spiders, we've got numerous snakes.
Yeah.
You go in the sea, you've got sharks,
Yeah.
you've got
Jellyfish.
box jellyfish, which is apparently the most poisonous thing in the sea.
And
The Australian tiger snake is apparently the most poisonous snake on earth.
Yeah.
And then things like in the rock pools, you get these little blue-ringed octopus. They'll kill you as well.
And what is it? I don't know. Is it the kakadu with the fucking claw that'll disembowel you? You know that there's a land bird, isn't there, somewhere in the outback?
I'm not sure about that. That's an interesting one. This is a new one.
I'm sure it can't be I think it's not a kakadu. I think that might be New
Kakadu is the name of a national park up in the Northern Territory. That's
New Zealand
one of the biggest national parks in Australia.
But there's this fucking bird that stands probably up to your waist that has got these claws and a beak that if you fucking surprise it, it comes at you. There were a kid that got his artery done, a young 8-year-old kid.
Not an emu.
No.
Because they're the national bird.
But it came at him and it just got his, and he was done. I'll find it and I'll send you it.
Yeah,
when I get home.
I'm always waiting to add another piece of venomous wildlife to my collection.
But because there's no in England that'll fucking kill you.
Don't you have a couple of poisonous snakes that'll
No,
give you
they're non-poisonous. Non-poisonous, no.
I thought they had adders or something like that.
The non-poisonous.
I know in Ireland there are no snakes in Ireland because St Andrew drove them out. St Patrick drove them out.
Yeah.
Where's St Andrew? Is he
Scotland?
He's Scotland. Okay.
Yeah, it's the golf club, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. St Patrick drove the snakes out, so there are no snakes at all in Ireland.
Yeah.
But
bullshit.
I thought England had one or two.
Maybe
not lethal, but at least. You know,
you'd go to hospital if they bit you.
Yeah,
you'd go to hospital. But there's no that'd kill us. Now, when I were in Australia in 2002, they were telling you about people would park up to go watch a cricket game or something, leave windows open,
right?
Because it was so hot.
Yeah.
And then you'd be driving down motorway, sun would be in your eyes, and you'd pull the sun visor down, a fucking spider would drop on your lap, and you'd shit yourself and plough into Central Reservation or something.
Right. And die of the car accident.
Yeah, a big fucking hand-sized spider just dropped on you.
Like a tarantula.
What the fuck?
Yeah, we have kind of tarantula-like species. We call them huntsmen are the big ones, but they're huge. We used to get them on the wall of our flat when I first moved to Australia. We lived in a flat just up the hill from Manly Beach, it's a Northside beach, and there were these hand-sized spiders on the wall, and I remember looking up and just walk past them as quickly as possible.
Did you live there with an Asian wife at all?
No,
because I couldn't see.
Japanese women, they can't even look at a cockroach. Yeah. I mean, they're incredibly wildlife sensitive, but I that's not the case for people outside of the big city.
Yeah.
Like one of my exes had grown up in the wilds of Saitama, and she was fine. She'd pick up insects and no problem at all. But her son, who was brought up in an apartment in the city, he was like, even a mosquito, he'd run a mile.
You see, I will hear screaming and shouting downstairs, and I'll go downstairs and. Sophia and Sheba have got this kind of dustbin lid and a brush, and they'll look at her. There'll be this big fucking spider in the corner, and I've got to go and sort it out.
Yeah,
but they can be fucking huge here as well, can't they?
I had one here when I first moved in. There was a really big spider, and I saw him once, and I kind of chased him outside. I actually swept him out the Genkan, out the front door. And then a couple of weeks later, I'm in the bathroom, and he's come back. So I swept him out again. I think I had to throw him out 3 times, and I think he finally got the message. I can't hang around here. I'll go next door. He's probably next door with it.
Well, we got this one out, and he fucked off. Yeah. And then I'm doing something with my bike a couple of days later, and he's screaming from the next door neighbour. And I thought, he's fucking battering his wife there. It sounded like he was kicking the fuck out of his wife. Right. And then the door swung up and the screaming were carrying on, and he's got this brush getting the same spider out of his house. I said, that were in my house 3 days ago. Right. So, we're terrorising neighbourhood.
Yeah, the spiders, they want an indoor location, they're going to get one. And if you won't put up with them, the next door neighbours probably will.
When we were in Spain, me and Sophia would be in the place where we lived, and there were spiders everywhere in Spain and ants. And Sophia had been laughing and playing with this spider.
Right.
Didn't bother at all.
Right.
And then Shima's sister came after Jean were born, a couple of days after Jean were born. And she were in there with Sophia, and she saw a spider. So she looked at the spider and started screaming, Shima's sister.
Yeah.
And then Sophia, ever since, has started screaming at spiders. Just that one thing, that one incident.
Yeah. It just shows you you can learn a reaction and it'll
But
stay
it,
with
just
you.
that one, you wouldn't have thought the amount of times I saw her playing with insects and it didn't bother her, creepy crawlies.
Right.
But then that one reaction and it's changed her forever.
Pity.
I wouldn't have thought just one thing like that would be enough to change somebody's mind.
Well, apparently it does. And fear is a very powerful emotion.
Yeah.
It's like some of my earliest memories are fear memories, like nightmares.
Yeah.
And, I might have told you last time about
Yeah.
my dad leaving me in the middle of Clapham Common. I
Yeah,
thought I'd been abandoned. Those kind of things stay with you. They're very deep. They stay with you a long time. So maybe that experience of the scream was maybe more powerful than what actually triggered it. But
I think that's
the fact that the scream stayed with her, and now she's kind of that the insect or whatever, spider, whatever it is, will trigger that scream response because she experienced that, and the scream must have frightened her more than the spider.
But I will get these spiders out of the house,
and
they'll be fully gone. And she knows they've gone out of the house, but I'll come back in the house like this.
Yeah.
And she's screaming just as much. I'll go, just have a little look, and I'll pretend to trip. It's the fucking best part of being a parent.
Yeah, you get to do these things. I'm sure my dad thought that when he left me in the middle of Clapham Common. He must have thought it was hilarious.
Now you're coming at the end of your time in Zushi, aren't you? Oh, you think you are?
Possibly. I'm not sure what's happening now. I've had a spanner thrown into my works.
But if your plans go according to what they were according to plan, what you had planned a month or two ago, what is the process of getting out? How much shit? Not shit, but how much stuff?
I'm in the process now of decimating my possessions. Whatever happens, I'm taking boxes of CDs down to book off, and I'm getting rid of clothes. I'm giving away stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, and as for furniture, I'll do a kind of sayonara sale. I'll put everything up on Craigslist. Or,
I'm looking around now to see where I could get off you.
Yeah, I know. I'll have a bunch of stuff. I'll let you know. I'll send a list of everything out to my local friends before I put anything online. There'll be things like the dining room setting, all the cupboards. Right, there's kind of a rice table there. It's good for it actually holds rice inside the cupboard, and I've got a lot of stuff like that. So I'll put all that up, and I've got an electric bike and a bunch of stuff.
Have you got all new stuff for Australia for that house?
No, I haven't got anything for Australia. So I would go into Australia and I'd look at estate sales.
Yeah.
A lot of old people where I live. So there are a lot of estate sales. A lot of people kind of clearing out houses from their parents or grandparents. So it'll take probably a few months, but I'll be able to furnish a house fairly reasonably.
Because if you're living on your own, fellas don't need much, do they? No. A chair, a dining room table, and a chair to sit at the dining room table in.
Yeah, but I'm unlikely to live by myself. I'm more likely to have a partner in tow.
Ladies,
basically. And I'll want to have a room set up for my kids to come and stay. Yeah. So there'll be at least one guest room.
Yeah.
I'm not so much a ladies' man. I was very much a ladies' man when I was younger.
A magnet.
But I would rather have a partner in my life.
It's better than spending it on your own, isn't it?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. And there's the division of labor thing for a start. Yeah. It's good to have someone to work together, like cleaning the house, setting up the house. Women are very good at interior design. They put a kind of an artistic touch on things.
Well, that's it. The thing about living with a woman is you've got the house, which sounds like the both of us, we're paying the majority to keep the house running, but they're turning it into an home, aren't they? Exactly. They're sorting all the shit out.
Yeah, And there's the kitchen, of course. I mean, my cooking's improved a lot since
Yeah.
I've been, I started living solo for a while after my divorce. Not for that long, actually. After my first relationship after the divorce, then I had a break of about a year or two. And I developed a lot of cooking skills in that time. But at the same time, I'm not that good at Japanese food. It's great. It's great to have someone in the house that can put on a Japanese feast. I mean, it's fantastic cuisine.
I couldn't have turned that place into a home like she has.
Right.
I don't think fellas can they?
Yeah.
I think it's quite difficult.
Yeah. Well, basically, I've got a lot of stuff from. Actually, my ex came in yesterday to do the kimono business with me. And she looked around, she said, I remember that. And I said, yeah, there's a lot of your stuff here, but there's also quite a bit of stuff from X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Because there's...
She didn't ask for it back, did she?
No, but I mean, some of it, I'll give her the option on, some of the furniture and some of the appliances and stuff like that. Can't take appliances to Australia. It's 240 volts over there. Nothing's going to be compatible.
So if you decide to go, when is you out?
My initial plan was to go in spring before Kafun show. No, that's March.
Yeah.
Now I'm almost certainly going to Paris in spring, because Paris in the springtime. I mean, you have to go in spring, don't you? Yeah. That's kind of standard. And then the second plan was to go before summer really set in, like to leave early June or something like that.
Their winter.
Just before, that's a good time to settle in. You don't have to deal with
Is it still shorts and t-shirt weather where you're moving to in winter?
No. No, it's subtropical.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it gets cool. It gets down to about, 10 degrees at night.
During the day though?
15, middle of winter, 15 degrees. About like now.
Yeah. All right, okay.
Warmer than here, but not like tropical.
No.
It's, there is a winter. You do get a frost. Some nights at a slightly higher elevation.
And what are you going to miss about here?
Everything.
So why are you going then?
Been here 30 years. Well, maybe I'm not.
Yeah.
It depends on what happens in my love life over the next few months. But I've said to my possible future girlfriend that if everything's happening with us, I'm not going. I've already told her that, because she's worried. She's saying, if we get involved and then you're leaving next year, and I said, look, it's not fixed.
Not set in stone.
Yeah. I was planning to leave next year, and then she said, I don't want to disrupt your plans. I don't want, I don't, if you want to go back home to Australia, I don't want to spoil that. I said, no, you're a much bigger priority than going back to Australia. There's no comparison.
Yeah.
I'm kind of.
But are you working now, or are you fully retired?
Fully retired. Yeah. I draw about 1,500 Australian on rental income.
Right.
And I draw about 2,000 US on 2,000 Australian on investment income.
You don't have to do all of them, do you?
No, I'm pulling in maybe 35, 40 a year. I can live on that.
Yeah, easy, especially when you're by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But once I start throwing in trips to Paris and stuff like that, my savings will go down. But at the moment, if I move back to Australia, I can't get a pension because I'm above the limit. So if I do spend a bit of money going to Paris and having a romantic honeymoon in Bali or whatever it is, it's not a bad idea. If I do move back to Australia, I will qualify for a pension.
But you see, going to Paris, coming back here, you can't really keep them both open, can you? Because you'd have to kick the renter out, wouldn't you?
Yeah. No, if I go to Paris, it's not going to be for a long period of time. I'll go over for what I was planning to do was Reda, Emmy's husband, has already said he definitely wants to go to London with me.
Yeah.
He has been to London, but he wants to go to London with someone who knows London. So we go there and we do a tour of of the great sites. We'll go to the Bowie exhibition at the Victoria and Albert,
That-
for example.
That Eurostar is so fucking convenient.
Yeah,
You've got. Is
you
it the
said, was
Gare du Nord?
yeah, it's like an hour and a half.
Fuck
or
it.
something.
I did it with kids. We
Yeah.
flew into Paris because I've got a really good friend who I first lived in Tokyo with, who lives in Paris.
Yeah.
I went and met him. He put me up in one of the hotels that he worked at.
Mm.
And then Shima was with me. He took us all around Paris, and we went. I don't know if it's the same mosque, but we went to a big mosque in the middle of Paris,
Right.
and we drank, like I said before, we drank mint tea, and I drink mint tea every night now because of that
Right.
trip.
That's really healthy.
Yeah.
Very good for your stomach. In fact, I should have some this morning. I had about 6 glasses of champagne yesterday. I definitely need. I did mint and chamomile. I mixed the two.
But I don't know which train station it takes you to, the Eurostar, but it's right by the Emirates.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right by Arsenal's ground.
That's Arsenal. So
because as we were pulling in from Leeds into London, I said to Gene, "Look, Arsenal's football stadium," and he was like 3. Didn't give a fuck. He didn't know what it was.
That's North London, isn't it? I wonder what the station is. St
Pancras.
St Pancras. Yeah.
I think so.
Or Paddington.
It's one of them two. It's a P.
Yeah.
But it's one of them two. But you're in the centre of Paris and you're in the centre of London. There's none of this arsing about in Heathrow.
Right.
But the thing, when we went back...
Does anybody fly anymore? Yeah. Why would you? You've got to travel almost the same distance just from Heathrow into London.
Well, going there were a load of migrants running through tunnels, so we were held up.
Mm.
So they cleared them and we went through.
They were running through the tunnel.
Yeah. So we got into London, and I only had a ticket to get me up north at a certain time, and if I didn't get on that train, it would cancel. But migrants, the road, and I got on the next train. Going back, what I loved is going through the English countryside round Kent.
Yeah.
And you see in the motorways, and then you go under for about 40 minutes, and you come up, and you just look out to the left, and they're driving on the other side of the road, and like, oh, this is fucking France.
Yeah.
Why did we do it? Why would you jump on a boat?
Exactly.
You know? It's fucking great.
Yeah.
And you're right in the middle of fucking Paris.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, he'll love that. And if you can get it, does he follow football?
If I go to England, ideally I'll go up to Liverpool and go to a game at Anfield.
Yeah.
That would be a high priority. But Redder just wants to go to London. He wants to kind of see the sights of London.
How's his English?
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, his English is fine. Not fluent, but he's kind of advanced level.
Yeah.
I mean, Emmy and Redder, they converse in English.
Is she picking up French?
Yeah, she's studying French. So am I. I've been doing French on Duolingo for the last year or so.
And is she gonna live in Paris full time?
She's planning on being based in Paris. Yeah, they're staying with his parents at the moment, but they're planning on getting an apartment and moving up sometime soon. And I mean, she'll be back. She's not coming back for Christmas this year. She's going to spend Christmas over there because she's just been here for a couple of months. And I guess she will be back occasionally. We're planning to go to Vietnam sometime next year. So we're, that's one of the
Vietnam in spring is nice.
Yeah,
that's when I went.
Yeah,
I spent a month there. It was fantastic.
Mm.
It's in Saigon. It's just t-shirt and shorts, but you get up north to the Chinese border, and you're in a fleece and jeans.
Right. Yeah,
that was March, April.
I imagine Hanoi would be pretty cool even in spring.
Yeah, but Saigon was my favourite.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but so that's your I don't know if I'd be spending 30 years here, but 30 years in one place for travellers like us.
Longer than I expected.
Yeah. Well, this is the longest I've ever lived in one place.
Yeah, me too.
Ever, even because we moved about a bit in Bradford.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I left when I was 16, it's never been more than 3 or 4 years in any one place.
Right.
But this place has just simply got me by the balls, and you just want to stay here.
Well, you got the sea here, you got the forest here, you got temples and shrines, you've got streets that are safe for a woman to walk at night.
Yeah.
It's got everything basically.
When did
draw a decent salary? It's
when did you
ideal.
attitude of the grass is greener somewhere else dissipate?
I guess when I married and had kids, I
Yeah.
started thinking, well, this is where I live.
Yeah.
And I will still travel. I'll still do an annual pilgrimage back to Australia, or
Yeah.
go to Bali or Hawaii or Thailand or wherever it is. But yeah, basically, once I moved to Zushi,
Yeah.
I started thinking, yeah, this is a good place to live. For a while, for probably a few years.
Yeah.
I wasn't imagining it would be 30, but
I think somewhere along the line the cosmos has lined up, and I'm fucking destined to live your life now, because we just seem to be doing, especially after you said you moved to Coenge and worked in Ginza. Like,
yeah,
fucking hell,
that's pretty weird.
Summit's moved, and as long as I don't get the divorce, I'm fine.
Right.
Yeah,
try not
but
to make
every
that
other
mistake.
part, it seems to be I'm copying you.
Try not to make that mistake. By the way, it's after
11:15. I'll knock this on Ed now, but thank you very much for coming on again, man.
It was a very interesting conversation,
Yeah.
as usual.
I'll see you when I see you then.
Okay, mate.
Gracias. Thank you.
Yep. De nada.
Cheers for that, Dale.
Yep. No sweat, baby.
What's wrong with your teeth?
I've got one extraction.